Hey there, Internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with another episode of Movie Monday. I didn't get around to seeing The Room or The Disaster Artist this weekend, in part because I don't think they're playing here. The Room might have been. I might have been able to catch a showing of The Room over at Alamo Drafthouse, but I actually had to focus most of my efforts this weekend on cleaning my apartment, finally, because my unit goes through inspection this week, and so it has to be, clean and somewhat presentable for the co-op board that's going to come through here. So I spent most of the weekend, not most of the weekend, I spent a chunk of the weekend when I was actually getting out of bed and doing stuff, cleaning my apartment. Still cleaning it, so it's not done yet, but it looks way better than it had. Anyway, so while I was cleaning my apartment, I decided to throw on some Netflix yesterday, and I was like, what do I want to watch? And I just kind of scrolled through a whole bunch of the Netflix movies. There was a whole bunch of stuff on there. I was like, maybe. And I finally landed on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because I haven't watched that movie in a while, and it is a movie that amazes me in the fact that it was made. That you got Warner Brothers and Disney to play nice, share their characters for this admittedly Disney-produced kind of film. That's why you have Toontown in Disneyland and whatnot, and they have all the merchandising and stuff. But it's still like an incredible feat of business in this very cynical film industry. And it's one of those things that, like, I look at it, I'm like, oh, would we ever get a proper DC Marvel crossover kind of event in film? And it's possible. There is precedent with Warner Brothers playing nice. We got a similar kind of deal made between Sony and Marvel, or Sony and Disney and whatnot with Spider-Man and the Spider-Man films this round. But going back to kind of the original crazy blockbuster team-up film, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I always love the stories behind the film of like, oh, they like worked out the contract so minutely that you have kind of the big stars of both franchises sharing screen time. That's the only way they would allow it work. So you have Mickey appearing on screen first, but Bugs gets the first line, I think. And they share a scene together. You have Daffy Duck and Donald Duck, of course, in their dueling piano sequence. And just kind of the behind-the-scenes stories of that film getting made are incredible. The film itself, very fun, still very much holds up, I thought. The animation certainly could use kind of like a revision, bringing it up to like HD and whatnot, but for what it was at the time, in I think 1988, I was 3 years old. It is very impressive that they were able to kind of take nothing and put all the animation on top of it. Bob Hoskins is working overtime in that film. He does wonders. He does a great job as Eddie Valiant. Christopher Lloyd is wonderfully camp as Judge Doom. He's delightful both in his very uptight mannerisms, and then when he has the twist at the end, you find out he's a toon. He just goes kind of all in, goes completely batshit, and it's wonderful, and I love it. It's just a wonderful 1940s noir kind of thing, but set across the backdrop of what if animation and the real world coexisted. I mean, that it all comes down to a plot to build a freeway, and nobody knows what a freeway is. Oh, little will you know, L.A. It's just, it's a fun movie, and it's certainly fun to kind of sit down and watch. And I think the closest thing we're going to get to something like this coming up is going to be Ready Player One, and we'll see how kind of all of the different franchises that are going to play into that film play nicely together, if they play nicely together. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit on Netflix. I certainly recommend it if you are a fan of Bob Hoskins, Christopher Lloyd, animation, or film noir. It works wonders on kind of all of those fronts, and it's a delight. I had it kind of playing on the background. It was just fun to just kind of sink back into that era of animation. and especially hearing like so many of those classic voices kind of come out of the screen was delightful. So that's today's Movie Monday. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? We know what you think of the film in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.